Welcome to Catholic Shrine Basilica YouTube channel. Basilique Notre Dame de la Garde, Marseille, France. Introduction. Notre Dame de la Garde, literally, Our Lady of the Garde, known to local citizens as La Bonne Mère, French for the Good Mother, is a Catholic basilica in Marseille, France, and the city's best-known symbol. The site of a popular Assumption Day pilgrimage, it was the most visited site in Marseille. It was built on the foundations of an ancient fort at the highest natural point in Marseille, a 149-meter, 489 feet, limestone outcropping on the south side of the old port of Marseille. Construction of the basilica began in 1853 and lasted for over 40 years. It was originally an enlargement of a medieval chapel but was transformed into a new structure at the request of Father Bernard, the chaplain. The plans were made and developed by the architect Henri-Jacques Esperandeu. It was consecrated while still unfinished on June 5, 1864. The basilica consists of a lower church or crypt in the Romanesque style, carved from the rock, and an upper church of Neo-Byzantine style decorated with mosaics. A square 41-meter, 135 feet, bell tower topped by a 12.5-meter, 41 feet, belfry supports a monumental 11.2-meter, 37 feet, statue of the Madonna and Child, made of copper gilded with gold leaf. An extensive restoration from 2001 to 2008 included work on mosaics damaged by candle smoke, green limestone from Gonfalina which had been corroded by pollution, and stonework that had been hit by bullets during the liberation of France. The restoration of the mosaics was entrusted to Marseille artist Michel Patrizio, whose workmen were trained in Friuli, north of Venice, Italy. The tiles were supplied by the workshop in Venice which had made the originals. History. The rocky outcrop upon which the basilica would be built is an Ergonian limestone peak dating from the Barremian and rising to a height of 162 meters. Due to its height and proximity to the coast, the hill became an important stronghold and lookout point, as well as a landmark for sailing. In 1302 Charles II of Anjou ordered one of his ministers to set beacons along the Mediterranean coast of Provence. One of these beacon sites was the hill of Notre Dame de la Garde. First chapel in 1214 Master Pierre, a priest of Marseille, was inspired to build a chapel dedicated to the Virgin Mary on the hill known as La Garde, which belonged to the Abbey of Saint Victor. The abbot granted him permission to plant vines, cultivate a garden and build a chapel. The chapel, completed 4 years later, appears in a June 18, 1218 papal bull by Pope Honorius III listing the possessions of the abbey. After Mater Pierre died in 1256, Notre Dame de la Garde became a priory. The prior of the sanctuary was also one of 4 claustral priors of Saint Victor. From the time the chapel was founded, surviving wills show bequests in its favor. Also, sailors who survived shipwrecks gave thanks and deposited ex-votos at Notre Dame of the Sea and the Church of Notre Dame du Mont. Towards the end of the 16th century they began going to Notre Dame de la Garde instead. The first chapel was replaced at the beginning of the 15th century by a larger building with a richly equipped chapel dedicated to Saint Gabriel. Architecture. The exterior of the building features layered stonework in contrasting colors. White calisson limestone alternates with green sandstone from Gonfalina near Florence. Marble and pictorial mosaics in various colors decorate the upper church. A 35-meter, 115 feet, double staircase leads to a drawbridge, granting access to the crypt and, via another set of stairs, to the church's main entrance. The first stone was laid by the Bishop of Marseille, Monseigneur de Mazenot, on September 11, 1853. Work began but financial problems quickly developed because the foundations had to be laid in very hard rock. In 1855, the government authorized a lottery, but this produced less revenue than anticipated. The financial shortfall grew larger when the Sanctuary Commission decided to enlarge the crypt to run not only under the choir, but to extend under the entire higher vault. In spite of a loan secured by the personal assets of the bishop, building stopped from 1859 to 1861, the year of Mazenot's death. The new bishop, Patrice Cruz's father, arrived at the end of August in 1861, and resumed work. The generosity of citizens of all religions and all social positions allowed completion of the work, from the Emperor Napoleon III and the Empress Eugénie, who visited Notre Dame de la Garde on September 9, 1860, to the poorest of Marseillais. The sanctuary was dedicated on Saturday, June 4, 1864 by the Cardinal of Villecourt, a member of the Roman Curia, in the presence of 43 other bishops. In 1866, mosaic flooring was laid in the upper church and the square bell tower was finished. The bell was installed in October of the same year. In 1867, a cylindrical pedestal or belfry was built on the square bell tower to receive the monumental statue of the Virgin. The statue was financed by the town of Marseille. Sketches for the statue made by 3 Parisian artists, Eugène-Louis Lexon, Aimé Millet and Charles Gomery, were examined by a jury of Esperandeu the architect, Antoine Théodore Bernac's father, mayor of Marseille, and Philippe Auguste Gimron, director of the School of Fine Arts, Antoine Bontu father, sculptor and professor of sculpture, and Luce, president of the civil court and administrator of the sanctuary. The committee selected the proposal of Lexon. For reasons of cost and weight, copper was chosen as the medium for the statue. A very new method for the time was adopted to realize of the statue, galvanoplasty, a type of electroplating, or the art of molding without the help of fire, was chosen over hammered copper. A scientific report of November 19, 1866 said that electrotype copper allowed an irreproachable reproduction and a solidity that left nothing to be desired. Only Eugène Viollet-le-Duc thought that the galvanoplasty technique would not long resist the atmospheric pollution in Marseille. Esperandeu had the statue made in 4 sections because of the difficulty of getting it up the hill and to the top of the bell tower. He inserted into the center of the sculpture an iron arrow, the core of a spiral staircase to the Virgin's head, to be used for maintenance and sightseeing. This metal structure, used to support the statue, made it possible to assemble the whole by connecting it to the body of the tower. The execution of the statue, entrusted to the workshops of Charles Christophe father, was finished in August 1869. The first elements were assembled on May 17, 1870, and the statue was dedicated on September 24, 1870, but without fanfare, since defeat by the Prussian army dampened all spirits. The statue was gilded, which required 500 grams gold, and regilding in 1897, 1936, 1963 and 1989. Funicular. In 1892 a funicular was built to reduce the effort of scaling the hill. It became known as the ascenseur or elevator. The base was at the lower end of Rue Dragon Father. The upper station led directly onto a footpath to the terrace beneath the basilica, leaving only a short climb to the level of the crypt at 162 meter, 531 feet. Construction took 2 years. The funicular consisted of 2 cabins, each weighing 13 tons when empty, circulating on parallel cog tracks. The movement was powered by a hydraulic balance system. Each cabin, in addition to its 2 floors capable of holding 50 passengers total, was equipped with a 12 cubic meter tank of water. The cabins were linked by a cable. The tank of the descending cabin was filled with water and that of the ascending cabin emptied. This ballasting started the system moving. The vertical distance between the 2 stations was 84 meter, 276 feet. The water collected at the foot of the apparatus at the end of each trip was brought back to the top with a 25 horsepower pump, true horsepower, because the pump was powered by steam. Travel time was 2 minutes, but filling the upper tank took more than 10 minutes, forcing waits between departures, in spite of often considerable crowds. The last adventure after the ascent was crossing the 100-meter footbridge up the steep slope. Built by Gustav Eiffel, the footbridge was only 5 meters, 16 feet, wide and very exposed to the Mistral winds. On August 15, 1892, the number of visitors exceeded 15,000, but the advent of the automobile killed the funicular. On September 11, 1967 at 6:30, the funicular was shut down as unprofitable. It was demolished after having transported 20 million passengers over 75 years. Crypt. The entrance hall under the bell tower features marble statues of Bishop Eugène de Mazenot and Pope Pius IX, both carved by Joseph Marius Ramus. Staircases on both sides of the entrance lead to the church above. The Romanesque crypt is composed of a nave with low barrel vaults, bordered by 6 side chapels corresponding exactly to those of the upper church. Unlike the upper church, the crypt is dim and somber. The side chapels contain plaques with the names of various donors. The side altars are devoted to Saints Philomena, Andrew, Rose, Henry, Louis, and Benedict Labra. The main altar was built of Golfolina stone with columns of Spanish marble. Behind the altar is a statue of the Madonna holding a bouquet, the Vierge au Bouquet. Joseph Elie Escaramagne obtained this statue for the original chapel in 1804. At first the Madonna held a scepter, but due to the scepter's poor condition, it was replaced by flowers. 2 staircases flanking the main altar lead to the sacristy buildings and the choir above, but they are off-limits to the public. Bell Tower. At a height of 41 meters, 135 feet, the square bell tower above the entrance porch has 2 identical stories of 5 blind arches, of which the central arch has a window and a small balcony. This is surmounted by a belfry, with each face composed of a 3-light window divided by red granite mullions, behind which are Abba suns. The belfry is covered by a square terrace, which is enclosed by a stone balustrade bearing the arms of the city on each side and an angel with a trumpet at each corner. These 4 statues were carved by Eugène Louis Lexon. From the square terrace a cylindrical bell tower rises to a height of 12.5 meters, 41 feet. It is made of 16 red granite columns, supporting a 11.2 meters, 37 feet, tall statue of the Virgin Mary. A staircase within the bell tower leads to the terrace and to the statue, but is off-limits to the general public. At the base of the tower, bronze doors by Henri Revoil grant access to the church. The central door panels bear the monogram of the Virgin placed within a circle of pearls resembling the Rosary. The tympanum above the main entrance is decorated with a mosaic of the Assumption of the Virgin, patterned after a painting by Louis Stanislas Favre-Duffer Father. Upper Church. The nave's interior is 32.7 meter long and 14 meter wide. Each side chapel measures 3.8 meter by 5.4 meter. The interior is decorated with 1,200 square meters, 13,000 square feet, of mosaics as well as alternating red and white marble columns and pilasters. Esperandu wanted a subtle red that would harmonize with the mosaics and not clash too much with the whiteness of the Carrara marble. Jules Contigny, the marble worker, discovered such a red marble with yellow and white veins in the commune of La Selle near Brignoles, Var. For parts higher up, plaster reconstituted marble was used. The mosaics were created between 1886 and 1892 by the Mora Company from Nimes. The tesserae came from Venice and were manufactured by craftsmen at the height of their art. Each panel comprises nearly 10,000 tesserae per square meter, which means that the basilica contains approximately 12 million small squares of 1 to 2 square centimeters, 0.31 square inches. The floors are covered with approximately 380 square meters, 4,100 square feet, of Roman mosaics with geometric patterns. Nave. The aisles of the nave are divided into 3 equal parts, each with a central window that illuminates a side chapel. The external pilasters and arches are composed of alternating green and white stones and voussoirs. Basement windows at ground level allow some daylight into the crypt's underground chapels. Since the nave is higher than the side chapels, a clear story with 2 light windows illuminates the domes of the nave, although these windows are not visible from the terrace. The nave is topped by 3 cupolas decorated on the inside with similar mosaics. On a field of flowers, doves form a circle around a central floret. The colors of the flowers differ for each cupola: white for the southeastern one, blue for the middle and red for the northwestern cupola. Medallions on the pendentives depict scenes from the Old Testament. The mosaics of the northwestern cupola depict a grapevine, a thorned lily, an olive branch with silver leaves and a date palm. Transept. The transept is oriented east to west and lit by 2 paired windows, each with a rose window above. Above the crossing of the transept is an octagonal tholobate supporting a dome of 9 meters in diameter, composed of 32 ribs and crowned by a cross. Each outward face of the octagon contains a window flanked by 2 red granite columns and topped by a triangular pediment. The semicircular apse is adorned with 5 blind arches on the outside, each flanked by 2 red granite columns. The sacristy buildings that were added later hide part of the apse. The inside of the dome is decorated with a mosaic of 4 angels on a field of gold. The angels hold up a wreath of roses which they offer to the Virgin Mary, represented by her monogram in the middle of the composition. The pendentives at the base of the dome contain representations of the 4 evangelists: Mark symbolized by a lion, Luke by a bull, John by an eagle and Matthew by a man. The tympanum above the apse depicts the Annunciation of Mary. The Archangel Gabriel on the right announces the birth of Jesus to Mary on the left. Choir. The white marble altar was designed by Henri Rivoil and constructed by Jules Contigny between 1882 and 1886. The base of the altar is formed by 5 gilded bronze arches resting on colonnettes of lapis lazuli. The silver-gilt tabernacle is framed by 2 columns and 2 mosaics of doves drinking from a chalice. Behind the altar, a red marble column topped by a gilded capital supports a statue of Mary, made of hammered silver by the goldsmith Chanuel of Marseille. The mosaic of the apse's semi-dome depicts a ship in its central medallion. The ship's sail features the monogram of Mary, while a star in the sky shows an intertwined A and M, which stands for Ave Maria. This medallion is surrounded by rinso and 32 birds, including peacocks, parrots, hoopoes, bluethroats, herons, and goldfinches. The band beneath the semi-dome is decorated with 9 medallions, which represent several titles of Mary from the Litany of Loreto: Foederis Arca, Speculum Justidiae, Setta Sapientiae, Turris Davidica, Rosa Mystica, Turris Ibernia, Domus Aurea, Vas Spirituale, Ianua Caeli. Side chapels. The aisles on either side of the nave house a total of 6 side chapels. Henri Rivoil designed and Jules Contigny constructed the altars. Contigny also created the statue of Peter and made it a gift to the sanctuary. Each altar tomb features the coat of arms of its respective saint. The ceiling of each chapel is decorated with a mosaic, depicting the name and arms of the financier on one side and a symbol of the saint on the other. Long and meticulous restoration, 2001 to 2008. By 2001 the interior facades had severely aged. Also, the cathedral's mosaics had been badly restored after the war. After 4 years of preparatory studies, a major restoration project was launched in 2001 under the direction of the architect Xavier David. The work lasted until 2008, financed by local government agencies and by donations from private individuals and businesses. External restoration. Although the majority of the stones used proved very resistant over time, this did not hold true for the green Golfolina stone, a beautiful hard stone which degrades very quickly when exposed to industrial and domestic pollution, especially coal smoke, and was found to be corroded to a depth of 3 to 5 cm. As the original quarry near Florence had been closed for a long time, a new source was sought. A quarry in a vineyard close to Chianti supplied 150 cubic meters of Golfolina. The defective stone was replaced by stone treated to resist pollution. Moreover, rusting metal reinforcements had split some of the stone. 2 sets of reinforcements posed a serious problem, those that girdle the top of the bell tower to reinforce against the swinging of the bell, and those around the upper part of the bell tower that supports the monumental statue. Some of the reinforcements were treated with cathodic protection, and others replaced with stainless steel. Interior restoration. Interior work was even more important. Some water-damaged stuccos in higher areas had to be redone. Mosaic panels damaged by bullets or shells had earlier been repaired with a pour and rush technique, missing tiles had been replaced by plaster covered with paint. Moreover, all the mosaics were blackened by candle smoke. Mosaics which threatened to fall apart needed to be consolidated with resin injections. The most damaged part was in the central cupola of the nave, where all the gold mosaics needed to be replaced. The restoration of the mosaics was entrusted to Marseille artist Michel Patrizio, whose workmen were trained in traditional mosaic skills at the school of Spilimbergo in Friuli, north of Venice. The mosaic tiles were supplied by the Orsoni Venezia 1888 workshop in Venice, which had made the originals. Ex votos. A Mediterranean-style religiosity is expressed here with numerous votive candles and ex votos offered to the Virgin to thank her for spiritual or temporal favors and to proclaim and recall the grace received. One of the oldest documents about this practice is a deed of August 11, 1425, in which a certain Jean Eimer paid 5 guilders for wax images offered in gratitude to the Virgin. During his travels in the south of France at the beginning of the 19th century, Aubin Louis-Millon de Grand Maison was struck by the number of ex-voto at Notre Dame de la Garde. The path that leads to the oratory is stiff and difficult. The chapel is small and narrow, but decorated everywhere with tributes from pious mariners. On the ceiling small vessels are suspended with their rigs and have their name registered on the stern. They represent those that the Mother of Christ has saved from cruel shipwreck or from the fury of pirates and corsairs. The ceiling of the upper church still features many scale models of recently restored boats and planes. The walls of the side vaults of the 2 sanctuaries, the crypt and upper church, are covered with a first level of marble slabs. The upper walls of these side vaults are occupied by painted ex votos hung in several rows above. The most recent are on the walls of the terraces of the basilica. Most of these ex votos date only from the second half of the 19th century. Earlier ones disappeared during the Revolution. Most depict shipwrecks and storms, but there are also very different scenes: fire, car and railway accidents, bedridden patients, and political and social events. The events of May 68 were the inspiration for one drawing. An Olympique de Marseille flag recalls that the players of the club mounted a pilgrimage to the basilica after a victory. Symbol of Marseille. Visible from the motorways of Marseille and from the train station, the Gare Saint-Charles, Notre Dame de la Garde is the city's most well-known symbol. It is the most visited site in Marseille, and receives hundreds of visitors every day, a number of pilgrims remarkable for a site that with no association with a saint, vision or miracle, nor for that matter with a famous person. For Cardinal Etchegaray, former Bishop of Marseille, the Virgin of the Garde does not merely form part of the landscape like the Château d'If or the Old Port, it is the living heart of Marseille, its central artery more than the Canebière. It is not the exclusive property of Catholics, it belongs to the human family that teems in Marseille. Notre Dame de la Garde remains the heart of the Diocese of Marseille, even more so than the cathedral. It was here that Bishop Jean Delay on August 30, 1944, hoped that deep reforms would bring to the poorest more humane and more just living and working conditions. It was also here that Etchegaray compared, in May 1978, the ravages of unemployment to those of the plague of Marseille of 1720. A museum opened on the site on June 18, 2013, retracing the building's 8th-century history. It was officially inaugurated July 11, 2013, with civil and military authorities participating. As with prior renovations, a fundraising appeal received generous support from the public, in addition to gifts from public agencies. The logo of the popular French soap opera Plus Belle la Vie, set in Marseille, depicts Notre Dame de la Garde. The Marseille-based company Compagnie Maritime d'Expertises used a model of the church for a maritime test launch in 2017 where the symbol was sent to near space in 20-kilometer altitude. Tourism. Notre Dame de la Garde receives around 1.5 million visitors each year, many just for the view. Pilgrims come for various reasons, some writing them down in a guestbook. One in particular sums up these reasons: I came here first for the peace and comfort one finds at the feet of the Blessed Virgin, then for the feast for the eyes that the Basilica offers, for the panorama, the pure air and the space, for the feeling of freedom. Feast Day, 4th March, annual feast day of Our Lady of Garde, Notre Dame de la Garde, held on 4th March. Mass time, every days, 7:25 a.m., 9 a.m., 4:30 p.m. Church visiting time, every day, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Contact info: Basilique Notre Dame de la Garde, Rue Fort du Sanctuaire, 13006, Marseille, France. Website: notredamedelagarde.fr. How to reach the Basilica. Marseille-Provence Airport is an international airport in Marseille, France is the nearby airport to the Basilica. Estrangen Metro Station in Marseille, France is the nearby train station to the Basilica. If you wish to know more about Catholic shrine basilicas, Marian shrines and Marian apparitions, subscribe to our Catholic Shrine Basilica YouTube channel. Like and share with your loved ones. For more churches website www.catholicshrinebasilica.com.